Thomas back in the building with the Be More Today show. We are back. We are back. We are back in the building. And folks, we have been here. Episode 140 is here. Happy Black History Month to you. We're in the month of February, and we're super excited about what's happening in this month. You know, all things in February are great, excellent. You already know. The Be More Today show is also that thing. Now on season number 5 of our show. We've been going for 5 years straight, and it's been a great blessing being a part of the movement that is Be More Today. As you already know, we're ending our Steps of Greatness Challenge this month. Those of you have been putting in your steps with me for the last 40 days as we're being more in 24, that has ended. And I want to give a shout out to those who were part of this challenge this year. It was great going out there and getting our steps in to be fit, to be healthier, and to take our health seriously as we start off this new year. So kudos to all of you. And for more information about our next challenge, please visit BeMoreToday.com for my more merch, our info about our running club, about the podcast, which now is heard in 82 countries, over 57,000 downloads. Again, thanks to your love and support, we continue to move and groove and strive to be excellent. So I appreciate you. Our quote for today is simple as always by Roberto Clemente. If you have a chance to accomplish something that will make things better for people coming behind you, and you don't do that, you are wasting your time on earth. My goodness. Listen, this is the time. Being more in 24 is a real thing. We're trying to make sure that we go out there and we strive and we thrive. If you're not bringing people with you during your journey, you learn so many things in life. As you get older, as you get wiser, you get smarter, you learn certain things you want to teach those around you. When you see people who are struggling in certain things that you've already overcome, whether it's a fitness challenge, whether it's a mental challenge, a physical challenge, a spiritual challenge, it's our duty as people to go out there and make sure that we can lend a helping hand to bring up the next generation, or even people in our own generation with us during this time. That's the beauty of the Black and Brown movement. We've been through so many things as a people. We continue to change all these bad things for the better. We continue to make these things better for those who are coming before us and behind us. And the beauty of that thing is that it takes community. It takes people coming together and sharing the wealth and the knowledge and the understanding to be great in all facets of that. And my guest on today's show is the embodiment of that. Now, she's a new friend of mine. I'm super excited to meet her and to be a part of the show with her. And her name is Kyndall Osibodu. Now, Kyndall is from the South by way of Chicago. She has spent the last 10 years advocating for increased investments in the leadership, power, and well-being of girls and women of color through participatory philanthropy, community organizing, and education. In addition to her philanthropic work, she is the founder of the Runners Apothecary, a recovery brand for athletes. She is passionate about increased capital access to women of color, entrepreneurs, Black motherhood and the maternal health, and the intersections of movement and recovery. All of her work is driven by her faith, womanism, and her desire to increase well-being and good health for all. Kyndall makes her home in Brooklyn. Brooklyn stand up, and her husband and her son, also from Brooklyn, New York. So Kyndall, welcome to the Be More Today show. It is my pleasure to have you on today. What is going on?
Thank you so much for having me. I am so grateful and excited to be in community with you, with the Be More community. I'm just super excited to be here at the top of the year, right? Thank you also for that beautiful grounding that you offered, that quote, "What is life if we're not in service to others?" So thank you so much for having me today.
Kyndall, you're a rock star. Thanks for being on the show. And listen, I've been reading your bio. I've been looking at your website. I've been checking out the things you've been doing. And you are Black excellence. You are that thing that we talk about when we talk about being more in our community and being more for others. So before we get into the business aspect of what you've been doing in the community, I wanted to talk about your philanthropic work. You've been doing so many things, and your hand seems to be in a number of pockets. So I'm curious because a lot of people, they do it their 9 to 5, and that's really it. But when it comes to giving back, when it comes to being a part of community, when it comes to lending a hand and putting your hand across the aisle to help others, it's sometimes hard for people to get a grab on because they don't want to have time for that. They want to just
Mm,
take care of themselves. They want to just do their own thing. And it takes time to say, you know what, let me help those who are coming up behind me, or let me share whatever my skill, my wisdom, my knowledge, my
mm,
understanding with those around me. What inspires you to have your hand in so many of these different things? What are some of the things that you're really passionate
mm.
about when it comes to the list of things that I mentioned for you?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that beautiful question. I actually really have to start with my upbringing. As you shared earlier, I grew up in the South, the suburbs of Atlanta, and to be honest, had a very colorblind experience. Did not know much about Black history, to be honest with you, outside of the Black history programs at my church. And so it wasn't until I went away to college, learned so much more about Africana studies, about the global majority, that I realized, wow, how powerful would it have been to have access to this information as a young person of color, especially in my K through 12 experience. And so because I had access to that information in college, I decided, you know what, let me become a teacher so that I can support students of color in their racial and academic identities. So that's what I did. I became a teacher in Philadelphia. After that, I became a community organizer because I saw that students of color, and my focus specifically on girls of color, were struggling, the school to prison pipeline. There were just so many different things that students of color, especially girls of color, were experiencing. And so I became a community organizer, really focusing on education justice. So what does it look like to actually interrogate these school discipline policies that overly impact students of color, right? What does it look like to talk about how girls show up and can be safe, right? So that was the work that I did for quite some time. And while I was doing that work alongside amazing leaders, but especially Black women nonprofit leaders, I saw that many of them were not well. So they were funding this work out of their own pockets from their 9 to 5s. They were struggling financially, they were struggling physically, often experiencing sickness and stress. And so for me, it became a question of how do we better resource these leaders? And so that's how I entered into philanthropy. It really was a desire to support Black women who were doing the work of supporting their community. How can philanthropy resource them, their leadership, and their well being? Because these movements are necessary. There's so much work to be done, but we can't do the work if our leaders are not well.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's true. And it's very similar to what our ancestors were doing back in the day. Galvanizing the people together, making sure that we spread knowledge, encourage people to make better decisions for themselves, and sharing the knowledge that we have with others. I mean, it's what we all should be doing. But like you said, it's a labor of love,
Mm-hmm.
a labor that needs to be done. And I think if more people were on that tip to give back in more ways than the regular 9 to 5s, we'd be doing more for our communities. But we're grateful to have people like you who are doing that. So, I appreciate you sharing those things. And I guess I'm curious now, out of all things that you've been doing in terms of the studies and whatnot, you've come up now with runners this runners group and this product you've been selling. Talk to us more about the product and what inspired this runners I keep saying this word wrong. Say it for me.
Apothecary.
Apothecary. Why can't I say that?
Yeah,
What is
yeah, yeah,
apothecary? Talk
yeah,
about it.
yeah, of course. So the Runners Apothecary really came out of my, love at first sight with running. I'm ashamed to tell this story now, given that I've been in New York for 8 years, but it was a random Sunday. My husband and I were, going to downtown Brooklyn, driving downtown Brooklyn to return something to the store, and we just could not move forward. Like the traffic was like, it just didn't make any sense. Like we were just not moving. And so we finally decided we're going to go to the parking garage, which, most people are not trying to do that. We're trying to find street parking, but could
Right.
not find street parking. So we parked the car to get out and walk to where we needed to go. And this wave of like magic hit us and we realized it was a New York City marathon. I'm ashamed to say this now because like this is a whole holiday in New York. Like
Yeah.
it's a whole holiday. People go out, they
Yes.
make their signs, like people
Yes.
make plans around the New York City marathon. But I don't know, we were not in the sphere quite
You
yet.
didn't
So we
know.
didn't know.
Yeah.
We didn't know. So yeah, came outside, like saw the people running in the street, was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is so beautiful. And saw the people cheering, and I was just blown away. Like, I don't know what it was, but it just spoke to my spirit. And so decided, like, literally the next day, I want to run. Like, this is such a beautiful sport, such a beautiful community. And so the very next weekend, husband and I were like, okay, we're gonna run from our like far out Brooklyn to downtown Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like not a runner, like was very much, inside runner or inside exercise person, not an outside person at all. And so we like, struggled there, but it was amazing. Like it was honestly amazing. And so decided to become a runner. Ended up, talking to one of my good friends, shout out to Cedra, who is a marathoner and ultra marathoner at this point, to like learn what I needed to do, get the right
Yeah.
shoes.
Right.
And so I had the gear, right? And so I started running on my treadmill and just struggled. Like I had muscle aches, like stomach issues, chafing, like all of the things. And of course, some of this is common for new runners.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it really was, how can I stay in this sport if I'm experiencing all of this pain? And
Right.
so I started to do some research, saw that for a lot of runners, they rely on painkillers, to be honest, because it's such a high impact sport on the body. Didn't want to go down that route. And so decided to look for a natural alternative, and decided to make it myself. And so ended up making a muscle bomb for my body, shared it with my family and friends, and was like, oh, this could really become a thing. And so that's how the Runners Apothecary was born. Like it literally was out of my own need and desire to address my pain in a natural way. And then sharing it with others and saying, you know what, this is something I want to share with others, and super excited about it.
Okay, hold on a second. Let's back up.
Mhm.
So you said you're from Atlanta, Chicago. Okay. Um, and literally because you got stuck in the traffic of the marathon,
Yes,
right?
yes,
And if people don't know that when the marathon, like you said, the marathon comes to New York, it is the biggest party in NYC.
yeah.
All girls, music, bands. But yes, if you're driving and not running the marathon, it is the worst day to ever be in New York City. You can't cross over bridges. You
Yep.
can't go anywhere. It is the worst. If you're not a runner, it is the worst. You hate the marathon, right? So most people, when they see people running, say, you know what? This is the worst. I hate runners. I hate all that kind of stuff. But you saw this and you say, you know what? I want to be a part of this madness. That for one is like, okay, cool, 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 cool. Because most people say it, I'm done with this. I want no part of this thing. So, but I think what makes me even more fascinated about your flip is when you started training and like you shared, yes, going from no running at all to being in this marathon-ish mindset, as you told us, the whole cultural thing, the shoes,
Mm,
gear, the what you're gonna drink, what you're gonna wear, is it raining, is it snowing, what, not too hot, not too cold, the layers, all this stuff. And as a PT, yeah, people always tell me about the
mm.
aches that they get. And we talk about, using ice and doing taping and all kinds of things. But you created this thing that helps to fill your need as you were training for this thing. And I've heard people on the show in the past also go through the experiences where they went from not being in a field at all to being in this field and then in this new field that they're in, seeing something that they wanted or that was lacking
Mm.
and finding something to fill their need to do this new thing better. And that new thing becomes something that everyone can use. To me, that's incredible because there are people who've been running for years, right? And they've been probably experiencing the same thing you've been experiencing, but have found ways to circumvent the pain or, put band-aids on it or whatever else. But for you to come in here and to now create this new thing is amazing. And I'm always fascinated. I'm always fascinated when people can come into a new environment, find a solution to a problem that everyone can benefit from, and then let that new thing be the thing that's helping others not have to experience what you experience. I mean, that's just great. That's just great. And I have so many questions about the product. First of all, what's the background for you to even do this? Because if I were to go out there and create something, it would not probably help me at all. Because I
Yeah.
do what I do. I'm a PT. I do that. I run. I do that. But for me to sit here and create something that can help in what I'm doing, that's not my wheelhouse. So, what inspired you? How did you find the resources? How did you find it
Mm.
to help you? What was the background for that?
Yeah, thank you for that. So, I actually have to say it goes back to being from the South. My mother grew up on a farm. She loves to share this story about how she grew up on the farm. Her grandfather was a maker, he was a farmer. So the way that he supported his family was through farming and selling at the local market. And so my connection to the earth, my connection to making things is ancestral.
Hmm.
And so I have to start there because I've always been a maker. I've always identified as a creative or a creator, right? And so I had always been playing with plants, whether it was, making a tea because I wasn't feeling well, to, taking a class at the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens. They have like the soap making class. Like I've always been interested in making things.
Yeah.
And so I think prior to stumbling upon the marathon, I had actually taken an herbalism class because I've always been interested in holistic wellness. I find that both in running and in life, sometimes we can be so focused on the productivity and the performance that we
Mhm.
don't take time to be well and to recover. And
Yeah.
so for me, what I love about plants is that it can really provide an avenue for us to ritualize recovery and ritualize well-being, right? So it's important that we don't wait until, whether we're sick or experiencing aches and pains, that we don't wait till it's so bad that we can no longer do what we enjoy. It's really about how can we do things on a daily basis or weekly basis or monthly basis to take care of ourselves. And so from that love of plants, I decided, you know what, I don't want to approach this as oh my gosh, I'm feeling in pain. Let me take these painkillers, which, not a medical professional, people sometimes have to take the things that they have to take, right? But what is a natural alternative that I can incorporate into my daily well being practices? And so it's ancestral, but it's also just, leaning on my God given gifts, I
Hmm.
would say. Yeah.
Yo, talking about legacy, I mean that's super cool, right? You're talking about going back home and using your roots, literally, no pun intended, but using your roots to really go out there and create this thing that is plant-based, right? Um,
Mhm.
to go out there and help people. So what do you use in terms of the plant-based materials for the runners I can't say this word.
Apothecary. It's an ancient word,
Apothecary.
right? Like it's not in our
Apothecary.
lexicon
It's
anymore.
not. Listen,
It's not.
I've been practicing this word all week, by the way. And I was like, yeah, when I go on the show, I'm gonna say it right. Apothecary, apothecary.
Apothecary. Yeah.
Um, what plants do you use? How do you decide what plants are gonna be best? And what happens in terms of your selection of I guess what you combine with the plants to get the healing process for people to feel better?
Yeah. So going back to the word apothecary, that is our original pharmacy, right? Like before, we used to go to the herbalists in our communities, wherever we're
Right.
from, and we would, we would share our symptoms, what we're experiencing, and they would say, "Oh, take these combination of things," or we would have things that are a part of our daily practices, right? And so. Um, to start, just to say, originally I was making the products myself.
Mm,
And it was really like, okay, I know that this thing is helpful for me. I know that this is something that is a pain reliever across the board, these plants together. And so I'm going to make this together. And so it was really one, like the herbal class that I had been taking, also consulting with a apothecary, a Brooklyn-based apothecary. I think it's called Sacred Vibes Apothecary in Ditmas Park. So
mm,
really like learning from others. And so that was my original process, just trying to, figure things out as I go. But now, to be quite honest, I'm working with a homeopathic practitioner. And so it was really a conversation of like, okay, this is what I made before. What can we do that is sustainable, thinking about the sources that we use, but also now that I'm a mother, how can I create something that is breastfeeding and pregnancy safe? And so the conversation, the products have evolved given that new factor. And so I say that to say, in the sports and fitness space, historically, communities of color, women have not been included in product innovation and development, right? It's been
Right.
very much like, oh, we're creating this for this particular body type, or
Mm,
we are creating products for women, but we're going to pink it and shrink it. That's like that was their strategy in the 80s and 90s. And so for me, thinking about the people I serve, thinking about my community, who my people are, it was important that one, everyone can use it. And two, thinking about breastfeeding and postpartum, like I didn't stop running just because I was pregnant, right? Like that actually really helped me in my pregnancy journey and even now postpartum.
mm,
And so now it's a matter of, okay, what is safe for those populations. And so our muscle bomb, which super excited that we'll be relaunching in the spring, has arnica, has olive oil, has coconut shea butter. So it's both moisturizing and good for our skin, but also has active ingredients for soothing. And then our lip balm, which is for chafing of lips and nips, whether that's because of running or breastfeeding, has lemongrass, for example, also has soothing elements like shea butter, but also with breastfeeding safety in mind. So those are some of the ingredients that are in our two products.
that's amazing. I mean, that's what we use in terms of massage creams, when we're working with our patients as well, and has always seen good benefits when it comes to people. And sound like the Runners Apothecary. Look at me saying the right word.
Yes.
Runners Apothecary is um, something that we can all benefit from. I mean, there's so many runners who are out there who talk about the chafing that comes with running, especially when you're talking about longer runs on
Hmm.
different days and all those different things. So, the more products that we have, the better, and especially the ones that are plant-based, which a lot of people are getting into, have been very, very popular. So I guess my question for you now is, looking at plant-based products versus non-plant-based products, seeing any differences in terms of the efficacy, in terms of it being more effective, it being better for our bodies, any of the research that shows that what you're doing and what you're using is better than, worse than, or similar to other products that are doing the same kind of thing?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So the first thing I want to say is food is medicine, right? Food can be medicine.
Yeah.
And so, I find the research most interesting that talks about how our food has actually lost some of its nutrition over the last few
Mhm.
decades because of the quality of the soil, because of farming methods. So first, I just want to say food is and can be medicine. The second thing I want to say is I actually want to share a story. So many, many moons ago, I was at a job. It was, very stressful, had a lot of, anxiety, and my anxiety manifested as like just extreme like stomach indigestion. Like I just like my stomach was just like all over the place.
Mm,
And for the longest time, I would come home from work. And so obviously pre-COVID, because we're working from everywhere these days.
right.
But I would come home from work and I would literally take a stomach relief pill. It was like little pink pills. And I would take it like every day. Like that's how bad it was. It was horrible. And it wasn't until I talked to my mom, just like telling her, what was going on. And she was like, "Oh, have you considered ginger?" And I was like, "Ginger? Like ginger? Like the I don't know. Like I'm not sure. Like what are you talking about?" And she was like, "Oh, you should try ginger, like ginger tea." Excuse me, because that really supports your well-being.
Hmm.
So long story short, she like shared this recipe with me. It's literally boiling ginger, honey, garlic, lemon, honey, if I haven't already said that, in water, letting it boil into a tea. And when I tell you that that ginger, not only it tasted amazing in comparison to this little pink pill, it became a ritual, right? Like it became a practice of, okay, I'm not going to, go to this quick thing, this quick fix, which, like I said earlier, sometimes we need to do the things that we need to do.
Right.
But it was for me a light bulb moment of, wow, like there's this natural thing that I can take that is good for me, that supports what I'm going through. And so for me, it really became just an example of what would it look like for us to slow down and one, address the root of the issue. So obviously eventually left that job, but
Mhm.
also address how the things that we experience in our bodies or the things we experience in our minds sometimes manifest physically, and how can we look to food or other holistic modalities and practices to take care of ourselves. And so it's not necessarily that one is better than the other, but when we think about the toxins that we're finding in the medication we take, I mean, all of the research about the toxins and chemicals in especially products made for Black people and people of
Yeah.
color, we are getting to a point where we're recognizing, oh, let's actually look for cleaner products and ingredients that support our well-being and also get us the results that we want.
Yeah, for that alone, it sounds like an amazing product. And I know that a number of people, especially in our generation, and especially now, especially places like Brooklyn, right, are looking
Mm-hmm.
towards that. To continue to support Black businesses and continue to support products that are made for us. This sounds very, very exciting. And I'm curious, I know you said now that you're not making a lot of products by yourself. Is there a factory? Is there a place? Do you have a team? Who helps you do this? How does the Runners Apothecary, come on now, how does it
Yes.
work well? It took me almost 40 minutes. How does that work well to make sure that the whole thing shifts and runs effectively for you?
Yeah, for sure. So one, this is 100% a family business. My husband helps me pack boxes. My mom helps me on the accounting side. My brother helps me with, social media and writing. So 100% family business. And then I do work with a woman of color mom founded lab that is based out of Chicago. So out of my hometown to support me around the product formulation. So it's definitely it takes a village, as they say. And so that's definitely how we're operating. I think the other thing I would lift up about that too is, now that I'm a new mom, I realize the importance of asking for help. So
Mm,
before it was, I was making it myself, I was doing the pop ups, I was doing all of the things. And so going into this new year and really last year being pregnant with my first child, I realized I couldn't do everything by myself. And so it really has become like, um, yeah, leaning on my village, asking for help, and building sustainably, not being in a rush, doing things well. And that means doing things well so that the business is well, but doing things well so that the people are also well.
yeah, yeah. No, I hear that. And again, congrats on being a new mom. Super
Thank you.
excited. It's an experience. I have a daughter who's going to be 9 years old, and
Oh,
uh, yeah, it's weird now talking to her about real stuff. But
what
yeah,
a fun age.
it's yeah, no, it's a fun age. Lots of honesty. But it's a fun ride, and it's just beautiful to be able to see the legacy, right? And family
Hmm.
together. I love the fact that your entire family comes together for you, and that's something that we really cherish here at Be More today because it does take a village to get things done. And I asked every person on the show, um, what they're trying to be more in this year, 24. That's been our theme for this year, being
Mm,
24. And I know that your product line is growing and it continues to be something you're very, very passionate about. So, what is the next step for you and the runners apothecary for this year as you're trying to be more in 24?
yeah, thank you for this question. Two things. One, we're relaunching this spring, so super, super excited about that. We're really looking forward to collaborating with run clubs, especially Spartan Sunday Run Club, which will be partnering later this month. So super excited. Hope folks can come out to that and sample our products. And then secondly, on a personal note, my husband and I are attempting for the very first time 9+1 so that we can do the marathon in 2025. This is a huge deal for us. Like literally, we were like on the New York Roadrunners website, like literally like, oh my gosh, we got to sign up for all these races. It felt like getting Beyonce tickets. We were like, whoa, we didn't realize how intense this would be. So we're super excited. It is going to be a journey, especially since our little one is so young and we cannot, push him in a stroller, but we are committed in it and super excited about attempting that. So that's what I'm hoping to be more pushing myself physically and also just pushing myself in our business.
Yeah, shout out always to the Spartan Sunday Running Club, our running club. And we're super excited to be able to collaborate with you later this year for your products. I'm sure they will be well appreciated. And yeah, big ups to you for accepting the challenge of the 9+1. It is definitely a journey. I think it's a journey that everyone in New York should take advantage of. I mean,
Yeah.
you go anywhere else, even Chicago, right? We did Chicago Marathon 2 years ago, and to get into the lottery itself was crazy. And then those who got into it, we did it, so it was fun. But the opportunity to be in New York and to earn your spot for
Mm,
the next year's marathon, I think it's a beautiful opportunity. You're gonna
for
have a
sure.
chance to run so many races in so many different places in New York, and the goal of running it the next year, and even volunteering. People
Hmm.
opportunity to actually volunteer and to cheer someone else on during a race. Talking about community still, I think the whole thing is brilliant. And I did my 9+1 in 2019. And I'm
Hmm.
very, very grateful of that opportunity to earn that spot, to run the next year, and to finish that race. And you're gonna be there too. And I hope I'm there to cheer you on for that experience. I'm glad that
Thank
you
you.
have that chance to actually do that thing. I will say it definitely brought me and my wife closer together running the marathon
Mm,
the same year together. And it's something that you're never gonna ever forget. As you've already seen as a driver in New York,
right.
and now you'll be a participant in that thing. It's a totally different thing, and it'll be you who's looking at somebody honking their horn at you and being like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm doing it," and they'll be mad. And you never know. You never know. You may actually inspire them. You may inspire them to say, "You know what? What is Kyndall doing? Like, what's she doing
Yeah.
there?" And maybe they sign up for the next 9+1 for the next year. So it's a crazy thing. That's how I got into it. A friend of ours ran, and for years we would watch people run this thing. And me and my dad used to watch the marathon every single year, and I'd watch it from home, TV, and we're never gonna do that. Whoever does that, we're not gonna ever do that thing. And then we all just started doing it together. So it's definitely a generational thing and a beautiful thing when you can do it. But I'm super excited for you. I'm super excited.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
where can people find your products, buy your products, find you online, social media or otherwise? How can they get more information about um, what's going on with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are on Instagram at the Runners Apothecary. We are online, therunnersapothecary.com. We are launching in a couple of months. So we definitely are excited about that. And we're happy to share a discount code with all Be More listeners. So be on the lookout for that as well. But that's where we are. So yeah, thank you.
The Runners Apothecary is out there, folks. Get excited about it. I'm gonna get my products. Don't be jealous. Go out there and get your own products as well. And whether you're a runner or not, because if you're a runner, you already know these things are vital for every single race. Lips, nips, all those things, right? But even if you're not a runner, you can benefit from these products as well. And Ken, I want to just thank you for continuing to embody Black excellence, to going out there and not just showing and showcasing your love and your talent in your community, but also making things that others can use. And I'm not as creative in that aspect when it comes to creating things to help others. I'm more manual in terms of helping people. I use my hands for people themselves. But I've always been inspired by those who can go out there and create something out of nothing. And
Mm,
you've definitely done that. And to you and your family team, kudos to you. And we wish you the best. And I'm super excited to meet you in person and to try the products at some point in time in the future. So thank you so much for being on the show today. I really, really appreciate it.
thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
No problem. And folks, you said so many poignant things today on this show. Talking about the legacy, talking about running, and talking about fulfilling a need. And from philanthropy to entrepreneurship, she's doing it. She is basically the epitome of what Black excellence is. And I implore you to go out there and get something done in your life. As the quote said, if you have a chance to accomplish something that will make things better for people coming behind you, and you don't do that, you're wasting your time on earth. Kyndall is definitely not wasting her time at all. She's making the best use of her time and being more in 24. And I encourage you to do the same. As I always say, folks, have a great day, have a great night, have a great life, and continue to be more in 24. We'll see you next week. Peace.